I'm Kiera Morgan. Thanks for joining me on this special episode of Coffee with Kiera with State Representative David Gomberg. Hi.
Well, so good to be with you, Kiera. And here we are in the Lincoln City Cultural Center, a gem, a treasure here in the middle of town on Highway 101.
One of my favorite spots. You can find just about everything here. You can come to meetings, arts, crafts, music, you name it.
In the last couple of years, we've succeeded in taking the magic that's inside the building, outside of the building as well, with the near completion of the Lincoln City Plaza, which, in addition to being just an attractive and interesting place to visit, has been the site of everything from musical performances to farmers markets to political protests. So there's a little bit of everything here.
Beautiful, so beautiful. Great walkway and great addition to Lincoln City. But you've been a very busy man. Let's talk about what you've been up to.
Oh, goodness. Excuse me. Well, we are recording this the day after I've returned from the special legislative session. Let me tell you, there is nothing special about special legislative sessions. We had the long session, which lasted from January until June. And we're going to go back in January for the short session, which is just 1 month long. But the governor called us in to deal with some unfinished business, some work that we could not get done during the long session. And I say that with great frustration.
Now, what prevented the work from getting done? You had plenty of time.
We did. The subject is how we pay for our roads and bridges, that people are using less gasoline, and therefore they're paying less gasoline tax, and roads are paid for with gasoline taxes. So we're seeing that we don't have the money we need for snowplows, for potholes, for fog stripes. So there was a proposal that was brought forward, and honestly, I think it was mishandled. It was mishandled because they unveiled the details very late in session, and the proposal was too big. A 15-cent increase in gasoline taxes, sales taxes on cars, payroll taxes to help pay for mass transit. It was too big a program, and too many members felt that at this time, when too many Oregonians are having trouble paying for food, for utilities, for housing, that we shouldn't be adding substantially to their tax burden as well.
Well, that also increases grocery prices and common goods that you need, clothing and things like that are transported to the coast. How? By truck. That's paying extra for all that stuff, and they pass along those costs.
So there's a tipping point, because we don't want to pass higher costs along to consumers and to taxpayers. But at the same time, we need good roads. We need good roads to support our economy, and so that we can get to work or get to school or get to our health care. So where's the balancing in that? And the answer was that we came back with a program that was about a third as much as what we had been talking about before. A 6-cent increase in gas taxes instead of a 15% increase. No sales taxes on cars. Adjustments in some of the fees and registration costs. And significantly, we changed the taxes on trucks because there were 81 different levels of taxation on trucks.
What?
81 different levels. I mean, you've seen the weigh stations?
Yes.
Because what they do is they weigh the trucks, and then they have to register how many miles they drive, and they tax them based on that. And so we reduced 81 different categories down to just 10. Which, of course, is a significant improvement. So we came into Salem, and we spent a couple of days working out the details and making sure everybody was there, voted on this just yesterday. I don't like more taxes more than anybody else does, but I don't like lousy roads either. And in the last 4 years on Highway 20 in our district, there have been 20 separate fatalities. Some of them people that live here, some of them people that are visiting here, but the fact remains that there's a huge cost involved to not keeping our roads safe.
Well, not to mention Highway 101. I drive it almost every day between Moolock Beach and Ottercrest is really difficult, and it's stabilized now because we've had dry weather. but I hate to think of what's going to happen when the rains really hit.
And that slips again with what I call the Beverly Beach bumps. And I'm driving Highway 18 when I go to Salem on a regular basis. So we see the same kinds of challenges there. So what's this program going to cost? If you do an average driver in Oregon, let's say 12,000 miles a year, you get 25 miles to the gallon, this proposal is going to increase your gas taxes by $2 a month. And half of that's going to come back to cities and counties. So it's your city council that's going to decide how to spend that money, not the state of Oregon. The tax that we put on payroll is, I've read a lot that we doubled the tax. And I guess that's true. We doubled it from 0.01% to 0.02%, which means that it's for every $1,000 you make, it's about $1. And that's going to go for mass transit, and it's going to come back to the communities where the money is generated. So anybody who's paying in Lincoln County, that money is going to come back to Lincoln County, and that's going to go for mass transit here. And we decided we're only going to do that for 2 years, and then we're going to stop it unless it's renewed. So it was a much pared back program. It was a difficult vote. Nobody likes to vote for more taxes. Many of the members voted no. About a third of the legislature didn't even show up. And that's disappointing because I wanted people to be there to negotiate, to debate, and to vote rather than just stay home and say, no, I'm not even going to bother. But nonetheless, we transacted the necessary business and got this through the House. Now it goes to the Senate. Well, we've got a little bit of a problem in the Senate right now because one of the members is in the hospital. And until he is able to return, there aren't enough votes to proceed or to even have a quorum of members present. So the Senate is on hold for another 2 weeks before this proposal is finally debated and voted on.
Now, in the governor's last statement that she put out about ODOT and being able to pay for things, she discussed that there were several layoffs. If things didn't change, that would mean lots of layoffs in this month, in September, and again in January. Is this going to fix some of that, or where does that stand? Do you know?
If we can pass this package, then those layoffs will not occur. And those are layoffs of people that are doing highway maintenance, highway safety, accident response. Those layoffs will not occur. But there's something else important that needs to be said about ODOT. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. ODOT's got some problems. And we built into this set of proposals several levels of accountability. The Secretary of State's going to audit them on a regular basis. That the legislature itself is going to conduct performance audits to review their efficiency and their performance. And we've also changed the law so that the governor themselves now have the ability to hire and fire the director of ODOT, because right now they can't. That's all done by the Transportation Commission. So we're trying to increase the level of accountability within the department. And I will add to that during the last legislative session in the budget process, their budget came through the committee that I co-chair. We dug in. I cut 100 positions and $50 million out of the ODOT budget, trying to reduce inefficiencies there. So I don't want anybody to think that we're just ignoring the fact that ODOT seems to have performance issues. We're trying to address that, as well as come up with the money that we need to keep our roads safe.
Well, and that's a concern that a lot of folks have, is that, the large agencies have a lot of high-paid positions up here, and then you've got the workers, and then when it's time to make those cuts, it's the workers that get axed, and so I appreciate that you.
And there have been reductions in ODOT upper management as well. So some of those changes in place. I stood up on the floor of the House yesterday and said, we've done this, this, and this. But if people have other ideas for more accountability, I'm all in. Bring them to me, and they'll have my full support.
So let's talk a little bit about the last session. I don't think we've had a chance to talk since things have wrapped up.
Well, let's start with this. We went in with a couple of big challenges. The first is that the Oregon economy seemed to be leveling off and beginning to decline a little bit for a variety of reasons. And many of them related to my second point, which is uncertainty from the federal government. We've got the on-again, off-again tariffs. Oregon is an export state. When we implement tariffs, it affects the businesses in this state. So they're making they're doing less business. The state's bringing in less tax revenue as a consequence of that. Immigration issues. I mean, we can have a long conversation about immigration reform, but the fact of the matter is that is affecting businesses here on the coast, where we're seeing fewer people available to work in restaurants or to make beds in our hotels or to clean fish at our processing plants. And so that's affecting our economy. So we've got that level of uncertainty from the federal government. We've also got changes in core federal programs like SNAP benefits for food, or support for education, support for our highways, and particularly the Medicaid program. You know, half of the kids in Oregon are on the Oregon Health Plan, and that's basically Oregon's Medicaid program. And the feds are saying they're going to make major reductions there. So we've got to figure out how to provide health care to our kids or deal with them when they get sick. So there's this second issue of uncertainty from the federal government on top of a declining Oregon economy. And then the third thing is the simple fact that the Republicans and Democrats are just fighting more than ever before. And maybe here in Oregon, not as bad as in other states, but the friction still exists. So we go in knowing we're going to have to reduce budgets. At the end of the day, I would say that we pretty much took care of schools. We gave them more money. They would argue they needed more than they got, but
that's the case every time.
well, it is, and I'm not unsympathetic to our schools. I think we didn't do enough work to try and help special education programs, for example. But nonetheless, when we're cutting other budgets, we gave more money to schools. We didn't deal with transportation, and I've talked about that. We sort of dealt with wildfires, and I say sort of because we came up with a new tax on oral nicotine products and said we're going to use that money to help fight wildfires. I don't really get the connection, but I'm good that we've at least...
I think somebody looked and went, where can we put a tax?
Look, at least we're putting money aside purposely for wildfires.
That's good.
And so we took care of that. I think the best news coming out of this last legislative session has to do with protecting your personal finances, protecting your personal privacy, because personal privacy. I brought a bill that said that car companies cannot collect information about where you drive and sell it to the highest bidder. I mean, our cars, they're a privacy nightmare. They keep track of where you go, how long you stay. They know where you work, whether you stop at a bar on the way home from work. They know whether you worship on the weekends. They know all about you. And if you plug your phone in, now they've got access to your emails and texts. And I didn't want car companies collecting that information and selling it. So there were several bills that dealt with personal privacy, telemarketers and people that text you a day and night trying to sell you stuff. But we also dealt with personal finance, and in particular with our utilities. We've had 5 rate increases in the last 4 years. People are having trouble paying for their electricity, and we took some steps to better address how the utility companies are asking for and getting these rate increases, and particularly asking them to pay more attention to consumers and not allow them to pass along costs from the big data centers in Eastern Oregon that are just sucking up all kinds of power and pass those costs along to you and me when we're trying to keep the heat on in the winter. So a lot of changes on that front as well. So personal finance, personal privacy, and the third one is personal safety. Dealing with things like fentanyl, or hiring more district attorneys. Hiring more attorneys so that rather than dismissing cases, that the courts are actually able to conduct those cases. And if people have committed crimes, they go to court, they have a trial, and and if they're found guilty, they're punished. So those were some advances that I thought we made, but it was a hard session. I would say of the sessions that I've attended, this was the most difficult.
Really? That's interesting, because you've been through a lot over the years.
Well, we've had sessions where some of my colleagues actually just walked out and shut the session down. But this was worse because they walked out, they shut the session down, and we didn't get things done. This time everybody stayed. and we couldn't get stuff done. And that was very, very troubling. So,
Well, on that front, you and Senator Anderson seem to get along and collaborate very well, representing the coastal areas.
we work to do that. Your point being, of course, that I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican, and we've demonstrated that Democrats and Republicans can actually work together and get something done. We don't agree on everything, but we certainly agree on more than we disagree on. And we have worked collaboratively on policies and budget issues and trying to bring money home for projects like here at the Cultural Center where we are right now, and getting the money for the plaza, or for a new park here in Lincoln City, or the new docks in Depot Bay, or support for the port in Newport, or water systems in Walport, or a new rodeo stands in Philomath. We work to make those kinds of things happen, and I think it's an example that other people should follow. That Democrats and Republicans can, in fact, work together collaboratively. They don't have to agree on everything, but when they do, they can get things done.
All right. Is there anything else? You're out and about in the community, very busy all along the coast and inland as well?
Well, that's a big district. My district now stretches from Lincoln City to Junction City, and from Philomath to Florence. So I'm out every day. Now that I'm not going to Salem every day, I am out in our district every day visiting parades and ribbon cuttings and Rotary meetings and visiting with people. Yesterday, I had a presentation with the Oregon Coast Learning Institute. 50 people in a room for 2.5 hours, sitting talking about the legislative process.
What did you learn?
Well, I learned a lot listening, because these just aren't times when you go and talk to people. It's also times when you listen to people and hear what's on their minds and what they're thinking. And normally I'll go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and maybe I'll get 25 minutes to make a presentation and answer questions. This was 2.5 hours, and it was great. I just hope that they didn't stop listening before I finished talking.
Yes, and we see each other all the time at like you said, the various chamber events, ribbon cuttings, and things like that.
Well,
and that's a really important thing for the legislators to be able to get out and do.
Well,
right?
I'm a believer in showing up. I think when you show up, people get to know who you are. They have a chance to come and tell you what they think, or if something comes up later, they don't feel intimidated and afraid to reach out to you if you built those relationships. I want people to see me, talk with me, share with me, and provide me that necessary feedback. So, later on this week, I'm going to go to a ribbon cutting at the new apartments here in Lincoln City. And then I'm going to a groundbreaking at the community college in Newport for the new Career Technical Institute an hour and a half later. And an hour after that, I'm speaking at the Performing Arts Center about just meeting with people and talking about the process and answering their questions. And that night, I'm meeting with the Oregon Tourism Commission in Yachats. So that's one afternoon.
You're almost busier in the off season than you are during session.
But there's delightful variety in the things that I have the opportunity to do, and that I thrive on that. But what I really thrive on is getting in front of a group, and there's not a written speech, there's not a teleprompter, you don't have a PowerPoint presentation. You're just there talking with people and answering their questions and listening to them and building that rapport, but also learning as much as you are sharing. And I think that's the way it ought to be. Too many legislators come home from a legislative session and not to be seen again until the next legislative session. I show up with annoying frequency, and before we finish, I should also mention, as you know, I put out a weekly newsletter. Not all about me, but what's going on in Oregon and in the Oregon legislature. And we publish that every Monday. It doesn't cost anything. I hope people will sign up for it. If they sign up for it and they don't like it, they can
unsubscribe.
They can unsubscribe for it just as quickly. But we send it out to 10,000 addresses now every Monday morning. So another opportunity to stay engaged with the legislative process and what's going on here in Oregon.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Always.
And thanks for joining me on this episode of Coffee with Kiera. We're sponsored by The Human Being in Newport at 6th Street and Highway 101. Here in Lincoln City, you'll find them at the north end of the city on the west side by TLC Credit Union. Thanks for joining me. I'm Kiera Morgan.
Thanks, Kiera.